Hello, if I can get your attention. Thank you, Dana Westover is playing music for us. I don't know if you all know Dana. Dana was a booker at the Johnny D's for years and years. He's been doing sound for us, I think, ever since I started 23 years ago. He's a wonderful musician. He's got great work on his website and CD. So my name is Gregory Jenkins, and I am with the Somerville Arts Council, and I want to thank you all. And bear with me as I quickly explain a couple of things. If you want, please grab seats in these 4 circles. If there is not enough room for you, there is additional chairs here in terms of a little bit of housekeeping. We set these 4 circles up because we're going to have some breakout sessions for you all towards the end of the evening. And we didn't necessarily know, like a lot of artists, people don't RSVP, so we had no idea how many people are showing up, how much food to order, how to set up the tables and chairs. So bear with us for the transition of all this. But go ahead and grab your chairs. Try to keep them in as semicircles that they are. Those of you that may have your backs turned a little bit, go ahead and shift your chairs around, but we're going to keep them in these circles so we have sort of limited chair movement, so we don't necessarily have you all lined up in rows. So if the folks are comfortable standing there, if you want, grab a chair. Let's just do this transition now. But again, thank you very, very much for coming. And I just want to open some remarks. I don't know if any of you, did you all get sort of an agenda or what we call a run of show when you came in? If you haven't, there's a few up on the table still. If you'd like, you can share, but this will tell you what we're up to. So essentially, we're going to have sort of opening remarks by myself. The mayor is here somewhere, and where is she? Oh, there she is. And then Dan, our consultant, too, will make some remarks very quickly. And then we're going to run into, you all are going to learn a lot more about the ambassadors, about a little bit of the process, about some of the outcomes and how we gathered these outcomes. Then we're going to have breakouts based on these 4 sessions. That's why those are there. So if you can remember, too, at the end of the ambassador conversation that's going to talk a little bit about process, you all will be invited to come to these breakouts, and then the ambassadors will go over material with you then. But that's the overview quickly, and Dan will kind of go over it again. But I just want to make some remarks. Thank you, Dan, and the team of Forecast. And thank you to our intrepid staff at the Arts Council and the board, and especially specific staff that have been working with us on this work for about the last 9 months. Yuritsa, Callie, and Michael that are here helped really put this show together here. I want to thank all of the ambassadors, and if you all want to, this process was run by cultural ambassadors within the community. You'll get to know them more, but for right now, why don't you just go ahead and just raise your hands, and you'll see the ambassadors that are here. Thank them. So these ambassadors over the course of the spring and summer had around 30 different meetings that they're going to get into with you in the community and really helped shape the process that we have done, a very iterative process, and also some of the outcomes. And this work, again, I think is a continuation of other planning work we've done. How many of you came to some of the art space zoning meetings that we've had 2 years ago, our risk assessment work? We also did a preliminary cultural planning work, which really said that they didn't want like a traditional plan. They really wanted a capacity plan that would talk more about the community in general, not just about the Arts Council or government, but what about the community and how do we help support the community's capacity. And so this kind of monkey of cultural, Somerville Cultural Capacity Plan kind of emerged out of that work about a year or so ago during COVID, and I know a number of you were involved with that, and I want to thank you for that too. And that kind of brings us today to now that we had a meeting in May to talk a little bit about what our process was and open it up to the community that was held at the Armory. This is going to be more of an encapsulation, again, of looking at these 30 conversations, 54 action items or action-related items about what you all see, you want to see happen in the community. And they are coming segregated into these 4 major themes. And that's sort of where we are. And then we're going to be working later on to figure out sort of groups and actionable items to basically carry this work out. But that's going to be the next phase of our work. So I just want to say thank you again for participating. Thanks for all those that continue the work with the support of the council. And thank you all as artists for being here and making Somerville what a great place it is to be. And we'll continue onward. And now I'll introduce your mayor, who just won re-election, Mayor Ballantyne.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for being here, taking a night out on Monday. I want to I'm going to say a few thank yous. Thank the advisory group, including Councilor at Large Willie Burnley, and our amazing cultural ambassadors and city staff who have been participating in this, and also Dan Koff and the Forecast Consultant team. I know that I don't need to tell this crowd in particular why arts and culture matter to Somerville or matter anywhere, but I'm going to say it anyway, so you know that your city knows. The arts is not just a proud part of our city's character. They help form the heartbeat of our community. They help make us who we are. The arts also gives us more than we take. Our artists and makers are key drivers of our local economy. You draw patrons not just to the arts and cultural events, but to the small businesses near them. Perhaps most important, though, the arts are an infallible source of inspiration, reflection, connection, beauty, provocation, and more that helps give our lives meaning and makes them just a little bit more interesting and navigable. These benefits are not luxuries or incidentals. They strengthen our civil society. We need art and artists just like we need pavement on our roads, and our government structures need to evolve to support that. That's why we're here tonight. Our cultural ambassadors, as you heard Greg say, conducted more than 30 listening sessions and meetings in the community to determine where and how we need to advance support of arts and culture in Somerville. Let me say that again, that's 30 listening sessions. Just think what they could have watched with binge watching 30 hours, or 30 sessions on Netflix instead. The goal of all that listening was to make sure we heard from about the pain points, the hurdles, where are the possibilities, what are we missing, and who are we missing. We understand that arts and culture in Somerville is not a monolith, but an ecosystem. So our ambassadors listen for what is best at the grassroots. What does the city do well, and how do we advance our shared goals independently and together? They then honored that input, bringing what they heard into the center of their brainstorming and deliberations. And during those community-driven discussions, in true Somerville style, they set to proposing some audacious and new initiatives, which brings us to the importance of tonight. We are at an inflection point, a time to stop and reflect and be bold. It's time to start making and committing plans. I know that we talk about continued planning that may not feel bold or audacious, but that's how we get to our goals. So just as we have our summer vision plan or our Climate Forward plan that has driven real, tangible change, we will be living and evolving the Cultural Capacity Plan. The ambassadors will share the specific ideas they developed for that plan after listening to our arts community, advocates, residents, so I won't go into that deeply now. Though I do want to say I'm all in on seeking a way to establish a cultural trust fund. As I understand it, there's no legal mechanism for this in the state right now, so we will need to seek permission and propose a model. But I say we push to be the first to make that happen in Massachusetts. What I want you to know more generally, though, is that on my watch, our support of our arts community will not simply be reactive and ad hoc. I want our support for arts and culture to be steady, intentional, and deliberate. For that, we are looking to deeply understand not just our current needs, but to anticipate our future needs. We need not just to understand what our long-term challenges have been, but how we can foster long-term capabilities to provide for stability and adaptability. We need to hear not only the great ideas we have right now, but to build the capacity to be sure we can act on great ideas we have tomorrow. In short, my goal here with you is to continue to create the foundation, the architecture, the infrastructure, if you will, that will support our artists, makers, cultural organization, art programmers, and arts opportunities for the long haul. And this must be driven by what we hear from you, our community. Some of these ideas may or may not work. We may need to pivot, just as an artist sometimes changes course in the creative project. But we are committed to exploring these options and running with what works and what will have the most impact. And we are committed to anchoring these goals into the strategic plan that we will be accountable for. The cliche about art is that it's all spontaneous inspiration. And of course, inspiration is real. But artists understand all the long, thoughtful, deliberation and hard work often involved in realizing inspiration. Similarly, tonight we have our inspiration. Tomorrow we are ready to continue the hard work to realize the solutions. So again, thank you, and I look forward to hearing from the ambassadors and all of you tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, so much. It's incredible to hear that you are so committed to the arts community and to some of the huge recommendations that are coming out in the plan to start a cultural trust. As Greg said, my name is Dan. I'm here to just orient you to the room and to what we're doing tonight. So real quick, we are here in Warehouse 11 trying to respond to a lot of the comments from the last forum to change it up and make it a bit more dynamic and bring some of the spirit of Somerville into the room. So it's great to have the live music. We have Spinny Disc over here. Encourage you to check it out. By Woody made in Somerville by Woody over here. It's a mica table. It looks really cool. It's a fun thing to do. After I am done talking, we will have the ambassadors come up and have a panel discussion about their experience and what they learned. And then we'll invite you to go into, to essentially stay where you are, and you will be joining a breakout group around one of the 4 issues that came up in the, throughout many of the conversations. And you'll discuss some of the actions that have come out to address those issues. Don't fear if you want to talk about a different issue. You're welcome to go online to Summer Voice, hit any of the QR codes, and that will take you to Summer Voice. There's a survey there where you can read up on all of the other draft recommended actions, and the mission and vision. You can comment on all that as the as the plan is being drafted. And then if you fill out that survey, we'll notify you when the draft is ready for public comment. We're hoping to have this plan finished by the end of this calendar year. So and then after that, we hope to release, start implementing the plan and release a new call for ambassadors and for more conversations to take place to flesh out the action plan. Because as you'll see, this is very visionary at this stage, and a lot of conversation needs to happen before these actions are implemented. And that is where all of you will come in. So with that, I'll invite our amazing ambassadors to come up here, and I'll just explain that they are going to model some of the ground rules of the discussion that we hope will carry on in
networks and spread that out. And then whoever came. So I knew some people at the meeting, that some people were new. And then I wanted to say that the way that we were gathering the information was wonderful, because it did not, it invited people who had a long history and information that they wanted to share, but didn't make that paramount. So what we had to gather were focusing on the people, observations, principles, ideas, and experiments. So huge ideas, tiny experiments. You can bring your long history with the observations, but also someone who just arrived to the city also can say, this is what I'm seeing, and everyone is really valued. So I really appreciated the structure of that. Before we go on about asking the questions, I would love to introduce or have each ambassador introduce themselves. You're just going to say your name, affiliation, how long you lived in Somerville if you wish, and which conversations that you led. Okay?
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Demers. I'm an economic development planner with the city. I've lived here for a little over 2 years, and me and Puppy, we led 2 sessions on venue operators and nightlife event organizers. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ajda Snyder. I am a musician, singer-songwriter, live performer, and recording artist. I've been living in Somerville for over 10 years. I led 2 conversations on the topic of music.
Hi, my name is Callie Chapman. I'm a dance and media artist, amongst other things, including on the Arts Council staff. I've been living in Somerville for about 15-ish years or so, and I led conversations surrounding dance and performing arts, co-led with Emily Beatty.
My name is CJ. My name is CJ Felix. The mic is a little weird. Can you guys hear me in the back? Tight, yeah. My name is CJ Felix. I've lived in Somerville for over 2 decades. I love the conversations around like BIPOCs and youth.
Hi everyone, my name is Amurushid Buembo Kasule. I love art and I do painting and drawing and any other art. I can sing, I can do anything. Yeah, and in this community I led the BIPOC community, and then I also led the immigrant community and people with disabilities towards art. It was fun.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joe White. My friends call me Puppy, so please call me Puppy if you want to be my friend. I was born in Cambridge, grew up in Arlington, and I've been in Somerville off and on for about 20 years. Artist, sculptor, musician, yeah, do lots of stuff. I hosted meetings with Ben and some other folks that aren't here on nightlife, visual arts, and makerspaces in the area.
Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine. I am a multidisciplinary creative, and I led conversations on women and the BIPOC community.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm a poet, and I led 2 conversations with writers and 1 for the elderly.
Hi, my name is Lynn Gervins. I'm a ceramic artist and also the executive director of Mudflat Pottery School in East Somerville. Mudflat's a 52-year-old organization. We've been in Somerville since 1985. And I led conversations on nonprofit arts organizations and galleries.
I'm Dr. Starinyana. I'm a interdisciplinary neuroscientist, and I led conversations with other interdisciplinary artists and mixed media artists.
So, Greg or Dan, how much time do you think we have at this point? 10 minutes, 20 minutes? What's our cutoff?
We'll make executive decisions.
You just raise your hand. 10 minutes. All right, we got this. All right, so one of the things we wanted to bring out beyond the data is what did you enjoy about the process? What was enjoyable about the process? I'll let you raise your hand instead of popcorning. Oh, great. Thanks, Catherine.
I really enjoyed connecting with people in the community and having the opportunity to hear the different perspectives and the experiences people were having. I really appreciated just like that diverse perspective and background that people were able to bring to the table.
I enjoyed with writers. It's hard to get them out from behind their desks, so it was really great to have writers come together and say, "Wow, we didn't know each other," and so that was wonderful. And then the creative ideas that came out of just simply being in the same room, and also with the elderly, it was just they were so creative and so visionary. I really enjoyed that.
I was just going to say that we have a small but really passionate group of nonprofit arts leaders in our community, and I really have appreciated the camaraderie and getting to know those other organizations and the people who run them more, that they're people that I can call on when I have problems to solve, and it's been great to get to know them all a little bit better.
So What's something that you guys learned? So I was just updated that if I don't use the mic, it's not going to be captured. So something that I enjoyed was the fact that I did learn a lot. So I learned a lot about my community members. I learned a lot about processes. I learned specific facilitation tools to be able to like get information in ways that aren't sterile. Because it's like, how are we gonna have an arts conversation and like we feel like really constricted? So that was really engaging for me. And I posed the questions to my peers of like, what did you guys learn? And yeah, if anybody, I can pass the mic.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that really came across was how willing people were to engage in the conversation of change. We talked a lot about where we are now and what we would like to see. And I feel like there is this stigma that community meetings can often be not necessarily as productive as we'd like them to be. But I found that all of our conversations were very productive. People were very engaged. They came with notes, right? Like in their head, they just knew what they wanted to say, because some of them have been saying it for a decade or two, and that was great. And there were a lot of new people there too that were bringing in ideas from other cities and other countries. So we had really rich conversations, and it was great to learn where we could take all this information. So pretty excited about it.
Because of the structure that was built to gather information in a way that didn't need a moderator, it was a just paper that we were invited to fill up. I think that the process really allowed some things that were unexpected to come out. So it'd be wonderful to hear about surprises, things that you were surprised with. I think that I came in with, it's going to go a certain way, and I was delighted that there are many ideas and many moments in the meeting that I was not in control in a beautiful way. It's like, oh, like they really want to talk about this topic. They have a lot of things to say. So it'd be great to hear about some things that surprise you about the process, or any recommendations that come up that you didn't think of and you couldn't have thought of because one person can't solve this.
Thank you very much. For me, I really like the fact that when we started the process, we had like resources around us, but we had not put good use of them. But with the help of and the participation of the ambassadors, we started getting use of the places. And then more to that, I had like some of my people that I've been working with, when they saw the activities we are doing with the Somerville Art Council, they approached me, they said, Murshid, we saw you. And one of these people was a lady with a disability, and then she started getting use of the armory as part of, because she was grappling with getting a place to do her work. She got a place to do her work. All along it was a challenge, but with the start of this, she came out of the shell, and then she's doing work. So I was very, very happy of that.
Anybody else want to jump on that? Surprises. Yeah.
For me, it's problem solving. All of us identified gaps, but then all of us had our own unique experiences where we're like, oh yeah, I've dealt with that problem. Here's how I did it. Another person would be like, oh, here's how I dealt with that problem. So it was just gathering resources where everyone can just say, here is how I solved a problem. Here's how we can pull our resources together. Here's how we can connect and solve problems and gather that information. So it really was just connecting information, and then how can we find other people to also connect with to solve more problems. So it was really the theme of network came through a lot to me.
Mic is on. Great. So as a last question, we didn't really do this, but like we might as well start now. Whoever answers, again, can you just say your name again? I'm CJ, I hope everybody remembers that tonight. And then the last question would be like, why did you sign up for this role? And what was about it was enticing? Like, why, can we share briefly like why we're here? I'll start and I'll just say like, being in community space is really important for me. I come from a big family, so it is really important for all voices to be like heard, considered. and it's really healthy when like groups move, maybe not as one, but like harmoniously. That's the word I'm trying to figure out. So it's great how we have 4 different conversations and we have like 54 different action items and all this information, but all of them are like meant to like work in an ecosystem together. And then that's what was like really appealing and drawing me to this position. So if any one of us want to first say our name and then like why they came into the position, I could share. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ajda, and again, I led conversations on music. When I found out that the city was looking for ambassadors, I was facing displacement from my music rehearsal space in Brighton, and I had been there for 18 years. That's a long time to be in a space, to have access to a space as an artist, to hone your work so you can then offer it up to the community. And I saw that my city was actively engaging the community and other creatives like myself to address the challenges. I was impressed to see that they're aware of their own limitations, but also willing to engage us. And I felt like I wanted to join the effort and be a part of the attempt to steward things in a positive direction and hopefully get more venues and more rehearsal space for loud music and things like that built in my own community.
I can jump in on that one. So I think all of us kind of similarly. Oh, my name is Callie. Hi. All of us similarly have a passion of like making things better, right? Hopefully, something like yes. He says yes. And you know, throughout my journey as a dance maker, artist, media artist, whatever, convener of dance artists mostly. I noticed that there's just this in myself. I really love when people of like mind get together in a room, and it's kind of thrilling to kind of like engage in conversation. It's so simple. It seems so simple. Like that's all you would need to do is get in the room and talk with each other, and then feed into that what kind of actions will get out of that convening, and rather than being siloed in our little communities. Kind of doing our own thing and not talking to each other. In dance, it's a very communal art form, so it's kind of like almost implicit, like, yeah, we're doing that anyway. We're like, no, we're not, which is really interesting. We are moving together, but we're not necessarily talking to each other in order to facilitate change together. So by doing that in this formal process, it gives us platform to actually initiate even the thought of a change, which was very exciting for me. As an artist, but also as a community organizer.
Hi everyone, my name is Amurshid Bwembo once again. Yeah, for me, when I got this opportunity through a great friend of mine, she's right there. She always posts good things for me. Yvette, thank you so much. So I saw it as an opportunity to serve, because I always like to serve the community that I live in. And I wanted also to bring in a new dimension, basing on the needs of the immigrants and people with disabilities, people living with disabilities. Because you can find that there are various artists with disabilities, but in most cases, most of them have fear to get out of the case. At times, it's about accessibility. How are they understood? Most of them were concentrating on the side of receiving or listening to music, but we wanted to say a place whereby the stage is accessible. I can come on the stage like any other, perform maybe dance on a wheelchair, maybe sing like any other person, do the percussion or drums and on my wheelchair. So I thought the best way to do it is not to sit down and complain, but to participate in the process of making it better. And the platform was well laid by this project. So I gave my heart out, and I'm still in for it to see change. Yeah, that's what inspired me. Thank you.
have time for one more question, or should we cut? All right, we will move on.
Let me, because we have a lot more folks here, than this circle here has gotten pretty large. So think of these 4 circles. So this circle here, if you want to turn back in, this one is a little disruptive, but try to create a circle here. And this one we need to bring in tighter. So again, what we're going to do is these breakouts, I think for efficiency's sake, because again, a lot of the conversations and the action items will come back up. But so this conversation over here is essentially around space issues. This one is around community, meaning community within this community. This one is around affordability. And then the other one is around communication, if you think about how we want to communicate together. So either stick where you are, but bring your circle in. And then there's going to be several ambassadors there. And those ambassadors have, if whoever has this clipboard, give that to the ambassador. And then also, we're going to be wanting a scribe, because what we want to do is take some notes from you all about what's here, what's missing. You'll hear this from the ambassador. And then we're going to get this back from you and report back later as well, okay? We're going to be sharing out as well. So let's form this circle here.
self-explanatory. Grants for nightlife, expanding like nightlife transportation, and incubator programming. So those are some.
Oh, yeah. Just the specifics around like what it is. I just don't know what the specific terminology means.
Oh, right. So, establish a buyback or e payment program to relieve developers of their ACE space requirement. ACE stands for Arts and Creative Enterprise. This is something that developers are required to record if they meet a certain threshold. And the current rules require around 5% of the square footage dedicated to arts or creative enterprise.
I will add that the Arts Council redistributes money from the Mass Cultural Council through our LCC grant program, and you can apply for field trips. So each year there are at least a few field trips that are funded by the LCC grant program. They might go to the MFA, but there aren't that many, I don't think. But it's good to let people know about the LCC grant program. Teachers can apply to get funding to take kids on field trips.
There's also a state grant specifically for artists working on schools called the STARS program, and I've done probably 50 projects in almost every school in Somerville through that. And any artist, you just connect with the school and you can do theater or whatever it is you want to do. And you get funding through the state for that. And you can also connect with what she was just talking about. So,
There's music. So the kids start in kindergarten, and I think also maybe at the pre-K level at the Capilano, but I'm not sure. But they start in kindergarten, and they have music all the way through. They can throughout their high school experience. The question is, in high school, what do they opt to take, other classes? It's a requirement through 8th grade.
I also do appreciate how do we consider people in formal education and people not in formal education, where having an event that is catered to give a certain level of education also communicates that we're talking to those people who may need that information too, which breeds the community, because it doesn't. I've experienced it being in space and be like, oh, these people aren't talking to me, and that's okay. Maybe I need to catch up on the conversation, but from where I'm at, it's not. So I think there's a nice bridge into that too.
Hello. So we're going to wrap this section up, and we do want to have time for you all to be able to report out to one another. So what we're going to do is just go from one section to another, and I would say whoever the reporter is, try to hopefully synthesize some of the conversations that you had that were beyond, obviously, what was written down and what you thought was important. So we'll start here, and if you all too want to share as well, that's fine. Who's the reporter here?
Okay. Hi, I'm Jenny Golden, and we are the communications group. And I'll do my best at communicating. So we were looking at this list, and a couple things came up. Probably the first one we really wanted to talk about was the promotion of events and how we're telling people in the larger community what's possible, what's going on in Somerville in the arts community, and as part of that was obviously an updated calendar, make it easy for people to use, also to find, entering information. It's just too much information out there and it's not really central to it. Along the same lines of promoting, we did talk a little bit about the establishment of a cultural district, which it's one of the things that came up is we're a really big area. We have things in Davis, we have things in Union, we have things in Assembly, and the idea of a central location would help us communicate just like they do in other areas, that one central area, and that would help us promote it as an arts district. And it came up also in the communication. It's easier to get block grants. It's just an easier way if there's kind of a central arts location. It's easier for us to promote and communicate why to come to Somerville for a lot of the arts events. And like we said, the promotion would help with that. The other thing that we brought up on the flip side of just promoting and letting people know that communication is the permitting process. And what came out of that was that it's very difficult, like anything, if you're an artist, to find spaces and opportunities and grants, and they need help. And that could be, in streamlining that communication, not necessarily saying you're going to get the permit. How do you do it? How easy is it? How can we make it as easy as possible? Maybe some transparency around that. And I think that came up. And then kind of a third, one other minor thing that wasn't, I shouldn't say minor, but it wasn't on the list, was the idea of preserving. We talk a lot about performances and art, and we forget about that. There's lots of historical preservation in Somerville, and are we communicating that out? Do we have even an inventory of things like some statues in the area and when they get moved, and how do we let the town know about that? How do we know that people knew there was a statue and it got moved or it's under repair? Can we do a better job of kind of giving people more information about that, the preservation of some of our historical areas? Anything I missed? Yeah. Thank you.
Check. Okay. Affordability, the final frontier. Okay, I was nominated. I did not choose to be the one with the mic right now. So I'm going to do my best to read the amazing notes, although this is not in my handwriting, so please bear with. No, these are great. I can read them, it's just, okay, so which of these things resonated the most with us in our list of 13 actions? Overall, we kind of started with discussing how we got here, and the reason why most of us kind of sat in the affordability group is that many of us remember what it was like 15 years ago plus around Somerville, and some of us mentioned that they blame themselves for making it desirable, and that the actions of promoting the arts and music in Somerville so well kind of kicked us out, or some of us out. Somerville Arts Council was started by making Somerville a destination that drew people in, and as a result, basically we're a victim of our successes, I think was the main point. Which actions resonate with us? I think overall, the things that resonated here were bringing money in from any possible place, whether it's developer money, whether it's ACE buyback, whether it's coming up with funding from grant programs or whatever. Basically, there's multiple needs. One, permanent arts spaces. It's something that we've always done. We're always going to do. We're going to make art. We're going to make music. So we need the space. That's never going to change. We might as well make permanent space. And then there's the fine points of the fact that we already have a bunch of space that needs protecting, and we have local organizations that will need funding going forward. So any method of making these things more affordable is welcome. And the things that we're missing, so in this list of action items, something that seemed to be missing was basically red tape, can make it difficult for people that are scraping by to keep space that they have. It can be a challenge to keep up with code changes in terms of building safety and all that. So any money and processes that could help folks that have space, operate space currently, stay in their spaces long term and not be pushed out because of rule changes would be welcome. Affordability of housing is basically in the same ballpark as affordability of the space. Anything that can be done to bolster both was welcome. How can we preserve what we have in terms of like the raw character of our spaces? Like, we don't want to just like all of a sudden create a bunch of like these clean office-like spaces where you're expecting everybody to be creative and pure and genuine with their creative output. So, if you've been into any of the buildings that are currently in Somerville, you notice that a lot of them are old factory or warehouse type buildings, and there's a lot of character. They're very lived in, they're very raw, and that environment is precious to a lot of artists. How do we make sure that we don't lose that when we start to bring in regulation and money and creating new space? Are we able to create lived in space that is a hospitable environment for the creative juices that many of us have? How can we better, bring the artists into the conversation about how affordability and spaces are used in terms of, let's say we get a lot of these actions off the ground and a lot of these spaces are being created, make sure that the artists have a say in how they're used and how the spending is implemented. Toolkits are great, but I'm sorry. Can't read that one. I'm gonna have to skip that one. Yeah, like affordable art space that is gonna last, for a long time, because we're not building for the next 5-10 years. We're building for the next 100 years. So I think I got most of it. I'm sorry if I didn't do that in the clearest way possible, but yeah.
It's me again. Okay, so in our group we had a community. It was really interesting because, yeah, this is annoying. I'm sorry. All right, there it is. It was really interesting because I think there was like an overarching theme of like retention that we kind of like came up with, and then certain strategies of like retention was like arts education for that bridges the gap between like when you're in school and like when you're not, focusing on adults between like I think we said like 18, 32, 35 range, where you're like an adult to the world, but you're still like figuring things out. I think something along the lines of like incorporating mental health within arts programs came up as a way of like being sustainable. I'm trying to see, gallery spaces and like incorporating like businesses within the city. Examples were like hotel spaces where it is mutually beneficial for the space and the artist to like be in that relationship, which like brings in revenue, which like brings us money so that we can afford the high rents, but then something is like lower the rents. So like figuring that out as well, like affordability is definitely a thing. We were talking about like in regards of like retention, we were talking about volunteers as well, as a way of like different points of entry points, different levels of entry points where you can like get to know about spaces and the communal arts like through volunteers, where that's also benefiting spaces like open studios. Trying to run down if there's anything else. There was also like a lot of resource sharing that happened here that was tight. But I think that is the bulk of it. If anybody else wants to grab the mic real quick. Yeah, we approved. All right, tight. Yeah.
I've been volunteered, so not by choice. I'm going to stand over here so I don't back anybody, except you. Great. So in our group, when we did our introduction, we had a lot of diversity in terms of different people in the room, which I found really nice. Theater people, circus people, people who have knowledge about land use, communications, avid community members in general, a planner, a writer, storyteller, public art, producers, organizers in our group, just to kind of give a tapestry of where this is coming from. Observations that they had before they actually read where are they? Over there. The action items were centered around, ideas around creating a database of empty spaces, especially temporary space. Temporary space got brought up a lot in terms of activating vacant space for different variety of artistic purposes, of need for a variety of audience sizes in terms of venues. We have the very small things and the very large things, and like what happens to the things in the middle, like 50 to 300, and then what happens between those two numbers. There'd been discussion around spaces that, like for instance, I think a example was from Under 93, as in South Boston, like what happens to those spaces underneath highways, right? What could we do with them if we had them in Somerville, or used them versus using it for sand piles? Keeping track of spaces, partners in small businesses was brought up. So trying to identify small businesses that would kind of want artists to come in to do stuff, like where is the communication? It's like jumping around in each group, I swear. It's like all the same thing. That, and then where the one question was, what can you do where? Like a toolkit for resources in activating space. So how to activate that space, what hoops do I need to jump through to do that? So just the information share out. ADA accessibility, and rising costs, rent increases in affordability of spaces, correct? And then after reading the action items, there was feedback surrounding equipment rental. This is interesting. Equipment rental for producers, I'm not quite sure, but like producers and performing artists, I think a little bit more on that side. So have a centralized hub in Somerville to manage equipment for performance. So you have lighting or something else that we can source from instead of having to go through a private rental organization. And then questions were surrounding transformation in existing facilities, i.e. schools and things like that. Like how can an artist actually activate existing public space or existing city facilities? Storefronts, again, was brought up. There was some resource sharing around certain storefronts that are in Union Square right now that might be open for artists to come in and activate it. So that was a great resource share out. And then more on space is expensive. We've heard that, I think, throughout all of the groups, but keep saying it. Communicating with developers directly was another kind of share out. No space for loud music. And then on number 14, item number 14, there was kind of an edit to add independent artists on their venues on there, music and entertainment venues, so that it's not just the big ones that are taking over. And then the question I think we ended with was like, who's the management of these spaces? Like who actually facilitates the use of the space that's there between the owner and the user? That's a big question. There's some people in the group that said they would be willing to do that, and I'd be very excited to talk to them afterwards. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much for this incredible input. As you're talking, I'm immediately hearing resonance with a lot of the recommendations. I'm also hearing ways to refine them and create more nuance based on what was said. And I heard some new ones that should potentially be inserted. So I'm really excited to dive into these notes and revise, just keep making revisions. Our goal is you can take a QR code on the way out. Also, the QR code's on the back of all of those sheets. And there is a survey where you can comment on all of the recommendations from the other groups as well. So I encourage you to do that soon, because our goal is to publish a draft of the plan for public comment by Thanksgiving. So if you get your comments in now, I can incorporate them into the draft, and then you won't have to repeat yourself. So I encourage you to do that. And so at this point, our program is kind of over for this forum, but I do want to encourage you to hang out. We have a lot of fun activities between the spinny disc, the photo booth. Also, we have a wishing tree over here. So this is a way where we can start to find out what is most interesting to you, and B, start to figure out who might want to work on what issue. So on the wishing tree, in front of the wishing tree are labels and pens. So please fill out one wish for a way that you want to help arts and culture thrive in Somerville. So you can respond to any of the recommendations that you discussed or any new idea that you brought up. And if you put your name and your email on the back, then the Arts Council can make sure to get in touch with you to help make that idea happen. So that's the wishing tree. I encourage you all to do that before you take off. And I want to thank a few people. I want to thank Ella Ben-Ur over here, the founder of the Innovators Compass. So all of the conversations that this data came from, the structure of the conversations that the ambassadors talked about that was following the Innovators Compass is a human design framework that Ella came up with and shared with us. It's as open source, so you all can use it to work through any of your issues. And then we used it tonight again in a kind of shortened form to talk through these major topics. Also want to thank the mayor for coming and sharing her thoughts, for the Arts Council for putting on this amazing forum. So much work, ordering great food, Greg for bringing me in, and for all of our ambassadors for doing an incredible job leading these conversations, making sure your voices are heard and are going to be part of the plan, and for all of you for coming and attending and lending your voice. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Please hang out, talk to folks, meet people, fill out your wishing tree, and go online and continue to comment.